what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. We're on episode 65, and I am sitting here live with the new dad.
Yeah, yes.
How's it feel, man?
It's awesome, actually.
Pretty surreal, I'm sure.
It is, and, everybody tells you it changes your life, and you go into the process thinking it's going to change your life, and then it changes your life in a way that you can't even describe.
I'm sure there's no way to put it into words.
Right.
I always think of it, the comparison is always to a dog, but, obviously a million times more important,
right.
A million times more impactful.
No.
But, the surreal moment, I think, having never gone through it before, but I think that the most crazy part of it would be when you leave the hospital. When you're there, the birth and everything, it's obviously nuts. But then when you leave the hospital, it's there's no safety bars now.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's there to help you. This is yours. Mm-hmm. Have fun with it. Bye.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a long 4 days.
Uh-huh.
She was in labor my wife was in labor for 36 hours. And it was rough. And at about hour 35 and a half, they said, hey, this ain't making any more progress. We're going to go ahead and take you in for a C-section in a half hour. So it was we were both, and she was way more exhausted than me, obviously, because she had been laboring for 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But we were both just spent, because I hadn't slept, at all, basically, very little. And the emotional toll it took on me, I can't speak for her, but the emotional toll it took on me watching her go through that and struggle. And it was just, her body just wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. We were trying to make it do it 2 weeks early too.
Yeah.
So, and it just wasn't going to happen. And she was a trooper. She kept right in there. She never got mad. She never got disappointed or upset. And, but when they said that, in a half hour, we're going to go in for a C-section. Oh man, I went freaking nuts. Inside I was losing it because C-section to me, everybody talks about it being such an easy process, but I was terrified because it's a surgery.
Yeah.
And they're not planning for this.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, surgeries are, most of the time they're really planned. And now I know that they do this all day long. So but at the moment I was in full-blown panic mode inside because they brought them scrubs in and said, here you go, you got to get dressed. And, I realized at that moment that I went to the hospital in my work jeans and work boots. So I had these little tiny booties to put on over top my work boots. And so it was one little mistake after another for me. So it was just overwhelming. And then we were in there and surgery went really well. They showed us the baby over the curtain, and literally my life changed in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I can say is literally my life changed in an instant. I don't know how to explain it, but nothing else matters.
We've kind of had that discussion before with you about when did your life change physically, in your fitness,
right?
In your weight loss. You talked about things that were acute and things that were chronic, things that built up over time and things that were immediate,
right?
And how life changes can be both chronic or acute. It can be something that's waned on you for a while, then finally one day you decide, okay, today's the day that I'm going to change this. Or you can have something severely impactful, negatively or positively, that changes your life or alters the trajectory of it. So this is probably the best example of something that can be so acutely instant.
Right, and it is too. And it's so, going into this thing, I've always wanted to be a dad. So that was understood that I knew that I was going to love this baby from no matter what. Because they always say babies come out ugly. I don't think if she would have came out ugly, I'd have never seen it, because it was the best description of love at first sight that I can give.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's kind of sounds soft and whatever, but whatever. I guess I am kind of soft now because that little girl does it, and she stole my heart, and she's got it forever.
When I think that it plays into the motivational type of thing too, where you have more to fight for than just yourself.
Absolutely.
And I know that was kind of the impetus for
yes.
you kind of starting the weight loss thing, was being a dad and wanting to be there for your child or children, plural,
yes.
down the road. And you mentioned in a couple episodes, especially early on, when we kind of got to know you a little bit better, where you said, the main reason why I was doing this is to be around there for my kids, and
Yes.
to be healthy for them and show them that fitness and a healthy lifestyle and balance physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that's all really important. So it's kind of come full circle to the point where now that that child is here,
Yes.
now it's like
It's-
mentally time to take it up a notch.
It is absolutely 100% time to take it up a notch mentally, because I want to show her that no matter how hard things get, if you put in the work and the effort, you can have and do whatever it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have the opportunity to really do that right before her eyes.
Well, and then ultimately you can look at this scenario and say that the only things she'll ever have for the next decade and a half are going to be things that you give her.
Right.
You know, she's obviously not going to have a job or anything like that. So the life that she lives is solely predicated on what you provide for her.
Right.
Which I think that some people probably feel a lot of stress with that, or a lot of almost like a burden or a little bit of pressure to say that like this child's life and happiness and well-being are all dependent solely on me.
Right.
And it's a lot, but I think that pressure is also what makes diamonds.
Yes.
You know, so I think that if you look at it as a challenge and, like you said, step up the game mentally a little bit. Not that it was in a place that necessarily maybe needed stepped up. There's always another level, whether you think you have it or not.
Yes.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. It's all. There's always an extra gear.
That's funny. You said you're talking about the extra gear. So twice this week, I finally got back into the gym this week, and had a pull day and a leg day. So on pull day, I programmed up, a progressive overload set, to go up, and my deadlift was supposed to be 385 for a set of 5, if possible. And I hit 385 for a set of 5, and it felt really good and clean. So I kind of got conned into trying 405 again, which everybody knows that that's my nemesis. I've hit it twice and got hurt both times, but I racked 405 up and hit it solid for 3.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And as soon as the video stopped, like, because one of my guys at the fire station recorded it, and as soon as he pressed stop, he says, "That was that dad strength." And that was the first lift since I've been back. So I feel like that is the extra gear, like it really is. Like, obviously I don't think she has made me physically stronger, but it's that drive.
Yeah.
That drive to want to set a good example. And I feel like sometimes I might have left things on the table because I didn't have that extra drive.
I think one of the things that's important to talk about, at least for me, like that I think about, is when you have that extra gear, what is the cause of that, number one? And then when you analyze it, is it going to be lasting? So like some people get an extra gear, like an emotional extra gear. Like they're in a really good mood, so they have a great training session. Or they're in a real bad mood. Some people get fueled by anger, and they kind of visualize stuff that makes them angry, and they're able to perform a lift or whatever. And those, I think, are pretty fleeting, and they're just, at least for me, I don't stay angry very long. I don't stay happy very long. I try to be as level-headed as I can be most of the time. So those like peaks and valleys of emotions, if I was to fuel that extra gear just on those, it wouldn't be sustainable.
Right.
Like, it wouldn't be enough for me to actually make discernible progress with if I just fueled myself because of anger or enthusiasm or whatever.
Right.
So for you, having obviously a daughter now, there's that little bit of extra mental push that is always going to be there, though.
Right.
So it's always going to stay around.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be my cheerleader, regardless if she roots me on or not. She's always going to be the one that pushes me to do the best that I possibly can. Because I've talked about that forever, like making sure that I take every day in stride and be the best version of me today that I possibly can be. And I think now I have somebody who is eternally going to be my accountability mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to expect nothing but that from her. Is to just do your absolute best, whatever you're doing. If you decide to do it, if she decides to play ball, or she decides to play softball or basketball or the band, or I don't care. As long as she does the absolute best every day, I don't care what the outcome is.
And you'll notice that with parents, like for example, we just recently had parent-teacher conferences at school, And I love parent-teacher conferences. Most people don't like them. For whatever reason, I've always loved parent-teacher conferences. And one of the reasons that I really like it is because it gives me more insight. Like when I see why a kid is the way they are, good, bad, and different, I see a parent and it makes sense. The way they communicate, the way they act, when you get more insights to the home life, whatever. I know why a kid is a certain way after I meet mom, I meet dad, I meet grandparents, I meet whomever. Um, so, in essence, it's safe to say that kids at that age are such a product of in their environment, and they're so impressionable that like your daughter's only going to know what you give her, number one, like we mentioned, and then number two, and probably more importantly, what you show her. So, my parents would always give me spiels about hard work, but my parents both coupled that with action,
doing it.
So I got an understanding pretty quick what hard work was when I got woken up at 4 a.m. to shovel the driveway. It didn't have to be 4, it could have been 6, but they wanted to be up at 4 to do it, so I had to go do it.
Yes.
And if I probably wouldn't have bought into what they tried to sell if they weren't actively doing it themselves. I don't think. Like if they were just saying, "Hey, you got to work hard, you got to do this, you got to do that," but they weren't. I mean, it's like anybody. Like if somebody's trying to sell you on something and they're not the one following through with it and living it, then it's not gonna. Like you're more willing to take advice from someone who, number one, has the knowledge base but has the experience too.
Right.
Like no one wants an out of shape personal trainer because that person doesn't look to me like they act on what they preach.
I agree.
So your daughter's only going to know, number one, like we said, what you give her, and then number two, and probably more importantly, what you show her.
Absolutely, and that's why like these goals that we have set right now for me this year, are so important. Like because as she gets to the age where she's going to have like cognitive memories and remember things, I want her to remember seeing me drop and drop and drop and drop and get up really early and go run and then still be there to do homework with her at night and still be there to do all of her events, but I'm also grinding to get my stuff done. I just want her to see that because that shows that, you have to have the ability to manage your time to do things.
Yeah.
And, we talk about, that's so cliche that I always bring up time management, but I mean, it's so important. Like that's one of the fundamental things I want to teach her in life is to never say, I don't have enough time to get that done. Because I used to do that a lot. And that's why I got to be 526 pounds was I didn't have time to lose weight because it was so hard to grocery shop or so hard to meal prep or so hard to do these things that always compounded into a big failure.
Sure, you never have time to do whatever it is because you're spending that time doing things that are more comfortable for you.
Exactly. So yeah, but yeah, man, having a kid now it's so different.
Yeah,
and it's only been tomorrow's 7 days.
Yeah,
so I cannot wait to revisit this week in and week out and just have updates for her. Like she's already growing. We had her 4 or 5 days. We took her to the doctors, and she grew a half an inch and 7 ounces. Like I was like, oh no.
I mean, it's these conversations that you'll have literally for the rest of your life, where you remember when she was born, you remember the few days after, the weeks after, the months after, the years after, and I mean, every day I hear it from colleagues about how fast time goes and such, and I find myself viewing my own life like that.
Right.
Like when, so-and-so is, and I have it a lot with like former players or former athletes or former students when they come back and they're much older now and they have kids. Like there's kids that I coach that have kids. Like someday I'll be coaching their kids. Maybe.
Right.
And that's it's very, it almost seems impossible to be the case because I feel like I just got started in all of my professional endeavors, but that's the old, cliche is time goes so fast and you have to cherish it. But it's like, you have to sit there and wonder, at least I do, how do I do that? Right. How do I cherish the time? One thing that I've had difficulty with is cherishing the time while still being as busy and motivated as I am to keep going. Because eyes are always ahead, right?
Right.
So like, got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. And sometimes I lose sight of enjoying the here and now. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. That's something that I was talking about the other day, and I can't remember with who, but I said and I think we talked about it on the podcast. I'm not going to talk about anymore. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I can't wait for dot dot dot. That
Yeah.
I can't wait for dot dot dot, because that is me bypassing the process, or with Sutton, my daughter, bypassing her youth.
Uh-huh.
Like, because old me would say, I can't wait until she's in high school playing ball, so I can be the guy, be the crazy dad in the stands or on the fence at the softball field. Like, I can wait. I I'm not even looking for her to walk or crawl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying it. I'm living in the moment, and like I've been applying that to everything. Like, I used to say, I can't wait until I can hit 405.
Yeah.
And now I'm enjoying the failures, and I'm enjoying the growth involved in getting to 405.
Well, those things are never as rewarding as you anticipate
Right.
when you get there either. Not that I'm saying watching your daughter play high school sports is going to be unfulfilling, but when you get there, generally speaking, then you think about, oh, she's going to do awesome in college if she
Yes.
wants to play. Like, there's always another step. Like, you can say, oh, I can't wait till the day when I can deadlift 405, and then you get there and it's cool, but then it's like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's it.
And then what's on the horizon? Instead
Has your life been any more different now that you've deadlifted 405? Probably not.
Absolutely not.
You know.
Not at all, actually. So, like, that's one thing that I'm taking from, like, this process. And it came a few weeks before she was born. I was sitting at home, and before we recorded that week, actually. And I was thinking about, like, what it was going to be like, someday when she gets here.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about, like, I haven't enjoyed this pregnancy. So I started then, like, I want to enjoy every step of the journey. Like, not, like, because I feel like I skipped over the first half of my story of weight loss, wanting to get to this road to 250
Mm-hmm.
or this road to 205 or whatever we're going towards, right? I was looking ahead, and, like, eyes forward's a great thing, but I think you got to scan. I think you got to scan the road. Like, if you look too far ahead, you miss the journey around you. Like, when you drive to, from where we're at, if you drive to Myrtle Beach and you just think about the beach the whole time on the way down there, you miss the beauty of going through the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to see the journey. You don't get to see the trip. So that's something and I've done that exact thing. Like, I've driven that drive 15 times.
I think that's one of and this is a huge overstatement and an overgeneralization. I don't want it to be that way. But I think that's one of the reasons why, at surface value, a lot of successful people, highly successful, like elite level successful people, I don't want to say don't ever have happiness, but there's always something missing, it seems like, with a lot of them, because I don't think that when they reach a milestone, it's ever enough.
Right.
And I think that's okay to be like that, because some people are wired that way. But I still would like to think that it's important to, again, we're sounding very cliche with all, like, the corny things that we're throwing out there, but they are true.
I agree.
Like, you have to look back and say how far you've come and stuff like that to be able to cherish it and enjoy it. But it's hard. Like, I know that it's hard, because sometimes you get mixed signals from people, where, when you listen to things and you want to be successful and you listen to people speak on it, there's the drive, but then there's also enjoy the ride.
Right.
It's hard to balance.
It is hard to balance.
At least for me, it's difficult to balance.
And then I'm going to learn. I think we're going to learn along the way. And I'm sure I'll slip back into it eventually at some point, and I'll have to catch myself and pull myself back and stop looking forward so much. But yeah, you have to have, I like that eyes forward analogy. You have to have that vision of the future, but still be able to take the blinders off and see what you're doing around you.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes, like, the one way that I felt that I have found at least some type of mutual, like, middle ground with that is doing things that I want to do. So, in essence, whenever if I'm trying to accomplish a goal, let's just think of something like arbitrary, like I'm trying to run a 5K in under 30 minutes. Just throw the random event in time out there. I want to run a 5K in under 30 minutes. if I don't enjoy that, but I'm doing it for fulfillment purposes, like I want to accomplish this goal. So I want to accomplish the goal, but I don't enjoy what it takes to get to the goal. That's when I become overly focused on the finish line.
Right.
Literally.
Literally.
Like I'm just thinking about, okay, this sucks, but it's going to feel so good when I get there. It's kind of like finance. Like people who have like financial goals that they want to hit, and they're like, okay, I really want to hit, this mile marker, whatever it is, but they hate their job. They're not going to enjoy the process because they're
Right.
focused on the end product. So one way that I've kind of been able to balance that is doing things that I enjoy in order to set the end product. So like if mine would be, competing in another show, I enjoy lifting. So I enjoy the process
Right.
of getting ready for the show. So that going to the gym doesn't feel like work for me.
Exactly.
If I have like financial goals where I want to, be financially independent and debt free and be able to buy nice things for myself or whatever, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy training. I enjoy coaching. Those things provide money for me and I enjoy them. So I'm able to focus on the process and the journey simultaneously.
Right. And enjoy the focus.
So I think that, like, I know this sounds obvious, do the things that you want to do in life, but that's one way to not get hyper focused on the end goal. Because when I go to the gym, probably the best analogy here, when I go to the gym, I enjoy lifting every day. Like I don't think every time I'm in the gym, I don't think about competing and I don't think about this or that. Like it's goes back to a common theme that we've addressed a multitude of times is I focused on being a micromanager. Like this set, this rep, this exercise.
Right.
And then we'll go to the next exercise. Then we'll go like I'm not focused on tomorrow's workout.
Right.
I'm focused on today's workout.
Yeah. What I'm doing right now.
But I feel like if you don't do something you're enjoying, it's like work. Like I know people that don't enjoy teaching, and that's fine. You don't have to enjoy teaching. I would encourage those people, or anybody for that matter, not just in education, but in any field, if you're doing something that you don't like, I encourage you to try to explore other options and get out of it. But like those people don't enjoy the process because they come in on Monday and the first words are, Is it Friday yet? I can't wait till Friday. And they live for Friday. So you live for Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And half of Sunday's gone because they're complaining about going to work the next day.
Right.
So effectively, you're looking at 2 days that you're living. You're spending 5 days wasting looking forward to 2 days.
Exactly. I don't understand it. I used to be it. I still don't understand it.
So how can you focus on enjoying the process of the week if you're solely focused on Friday? Well, the one way to do that is to enjoy it. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, then you'll probably enjoy Monday. You'll enjoy Tuesday. And like anybody listening to this that knows me on a personal level can tell you that I'm not always in a great mood. So like it's just because you do jobs that you like and you work with people you enjoy and you network with people that, are very beneficial to your life and growing you as a person. And I get to work with kids all day. Like just because everything at surface value seems great doesn't mean every day is awesome.
Right.
I try to make it awesome, but it doesn't always work like that.
Absolutely. So on that note, how's training been for Charlie? Because it's been kind of lackluster for me for the last 5 days.
Yeah, yours has been haphazard, but I feel like having a child is about as good an excuse as you could possibly find. It's going really well for me, actually. I mean, I'm still obviously on the morning kick. I don't know if I mentioned this last episode or not. I think that I may have. But I started trying to, there was one day this week where I was trying to lift in the afternoon. And it was terrible.
Yeah.
Hated it. Like just absolutely, which normally that would be my time, right?
Yeah.
Like in the, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, like 4 a little bit late, but I enjoyed, like the noon, the 1, the 2, or the 3 o'clock lift, like during the summer, for example. I would plan my trainings for the day because I'm essentially at the gym all day in the summer.
Right.
I would train or plan a little break there for me to lift. And I usually tried to do it midday. That was my favorite. Now I don't. It's a mental thing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Like physically, I still wake up early, so it's not like physically I'm too tired to do it at noon or 1 o'clock or whatever. But the other day, I think it might have been a weekend or whatnot, or a day we didn't have school for something, and I tried lifting in the afternoon, and I could not do it. Like really? I did, but it was not the same. Like it feel like today, for example, the gym opens at 6 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. got to the gym at 6:30, and already felt like I was massively behind in the
behind
day.
schedule. Yeah,
And it was, and again, I mean, I know that sounds silly because it's still 6:30 in the morning, and I was out by 7:30. But there was part of me that just felt like I wasted an hour and a half because I wasn't there at 5,
right,
even though I literally could not have been there at 5. Like, I
right.
can't go inside because it's closed. I just felt like almost guilt. And then I said to myself, well, you could have gotten up and done something else. You could have gotten up and banged out a couple client emails, or you could have gotten up and done this or that at 5 o'clock instead of just lying in bed till 6:30.
Right.
I think that's part of the reason why I enjoy it too. Is when I go early, I'm more productive.
Yeah, well, you're stealing more of that time from your clock.
Yeah,
Because let's face it, our bedtimes are pretty well set.
yeah,
Most of us, most adults that have jobs and like careers, they have their bedtimes pretty well set. So, in my opinion, where we steal time from that proverbial clock is in the morning.
yeah,
Conquer the morning. I think Jocko Willink talks about it, and he talks about it the best because he gets up at 4:30 every day. He has for decades,
mm-hmm.
and that 4:30 club is important because you're conquering the clock.
Yeah,
Like whatever extra time you're going to get in your day is going to come from the morning. You're typically not gonna get extra time in the evening because your family's home. Everybody else's routine's gonna stay the same. So you're gonna either completely neglect the routine that you have set to do something extra, or you're gonna go in the morning and do whatever extra you need to do to further your goals when everybody else is sleeping. I think that's why I like doing the morning thing. And actually, so now I'm doing a new thing here at the fire station where I'm I'm leading workouts
mm-hmm.
for people. People started seeing me work out a lot and asked questions if they could come and join me. And now we have a pretty stellar group. I'd say 5 to 8 people of all age ranges that are really involved and really really interested in becoming healthier. And they like that analogy I use. I want to be the firefighter that's coming to my house.
Yeah.
And so I've changed my workout completely to accommodate and start working out with these new training partners, essentially. So now I'm training in the evenings. We're trying to do 4 days solid a week. I'm probably still going to do 5. I'll probably hit a morning workout on Thursday on my own. But training in the evenings, I'm going to start doing my cardio now that we're home and Sutton's settled in. We got our routines established. I'm going to start running in the morning in my neighborhood. So I'm still going to conquer my morning. I just changed it because that's been my plan from the beginning was strength training in the morning, cardio in the evening. So all I did was flip flop.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time to get used to because I like cardio in the evening because my body's really warmed up and loosened up from the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes me some time to run first thing in the morning because I'm, let's face it, I was 526 pounds for a decade. My body is beat up.
Yeah.
My joints hurt when I wake up. So it takes some time to get everything loosened up and want to do it. But either way, that's the plan now. And I've stole so many cues from like the videos that you share on Instagram of like all the group training that you do
Mm-hmm.
and building these workouts. And so far, I haven't done circuit work since I worked out on your strict plan for me, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I have fallen completely in love with these circuit workouts. And talking to you about it, talking to Shannon Noor about it a lot because she does a lot of circuit work. She gave me a lot of pointers too. And I don't know, man. Yesterday was my first leg day with a circuit involved, and I squatted really heavy.
Yeah.
I was really loosened up, and then we worked out for about 45 minutes doing a pretty significant circuit, and we got to incorporate our gear, so it gets us familiar with our gear more and moving in your gear. There's an aspect to that I didn't anticipate being beneficial, but
Mm-hmm.
like learning how to do these new athletic movements in your firefighting gear was a whole nother boundary that like I didn't anticipate, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So that's my thing about my new workout plan. So, but yeah, that's it. I'm still gonna do push pull legs. That's the plan. Just gonna do it a little different, and we're gonna do it in the evenings.
Cool. So let's go, and that's a nice moment to pause for us. So we'll pause and go to a commercial break and talk a little bit more about fatherhood and time management and your set schedule when we come back. As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well. And we are back from our commercial break. So Justin, before we went to break, you were talking about how you got a little bit of a routine going as far as coupling your cardio training with your strength training. Obviously, you have work and fatherhood all thrown in there.
Yes.
How was the process about going through and planning out how and when you were going to fit those things in? Because when I think of, a baby, the baby's not going to stick to your schedule. I mean, there's like, I know there's certain feeding times, but like sleeping times are kind of, you can try to plan for it, but it's going to be up crying and stuff. Like, how did you go about getting this schedule set? Was it an easy process? Was it a long process?
I think it was a longer process for me than it was for me and my wife together, because I've been thinking about it since she said she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm not the same guy I am today if I don't lift and I don't run and I don't eat clean and I don't do the things that I do. Everybody tells me all the time that I'm happier, I'm a nicer person, I'm better, all these nice things, but they are all attributed to what I do in a day.
Yeah.
So, like, fitness is the undertone to my character, so to speak. So I knew that I had to really think about how I'm going to make it work. And at first I was steadfast that nothing's going to change. We're just going to figure it out. And then she came out and I realized that she comes first. But we talked. Just actually today we were talking, and I only sleep like 4 hours a night anyways. Like, I've been doing that for almost 3 years now, where I don't really sleep. So, like, I sleep. I get 4 good hours of sleep. And it just so happens that the baby eats every 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I figure I've established in the last 7 days a bedtime routine with Sutton that is something that I really enjoy. Dancing around, listening to music, singing to her, and then transitioning into the rocking chair and rocking her, putting her to sleep, getting her in her bassinet, and then we go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I feed her right before that. So I feed her, put her to sleep, takes about a half hour. And she's such a good baby, she's making it pretty easy. I'm looking for wood to knock on because I shouldn't say that. But, so I figure as long as everything goes the way it should, I'll get up at her next feeding, which is 4 hours later.
Yep.
Feed her, put her back to sleep, and then I'll go do. Most days I'm planning on doing an hour of cardio,
mm-hmm.
but some days it might take me extra time to get her to sleep. I'll do a half hour, and I'll just, on the days that it is shortened because I'm a father, that isn't going to be a problem. I'm going to just up the intensity.
Yeah.
I'll add some sprints in. I'll add a weighted backpack or a weighted vest. We'll figure out. We'll cross that bridge as they come. I figure, like we always talk about, you got to have more wins than you do losses. So there may be days where she doesn't want to go back to sleep, and 3 o'clock rolls around, 3:30 rolls around, she's still not asleep. I got to get ready, get ready for work. I won't do cardio today.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. There will be days where I'm not going to get it in, and I decided that that's okay. She's worth a slowdown, a small slowdown in progress. So it's okay.
Yeah.
But also, ultimately, I'm planning on winning the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I win the mornings, everything stays on track because my wife is awake in the evening. She'll be okay. And once she goes back to work, she's gonna have like 1 to 3 hours by herself while I finish up work and do my workout, and then I'll be home.
Yeah.
So, and she's cool about it. She's on board. She likes the plan. She knows that I have to do it. Like I have to work out because if I don't, mentally I'm not the same guy. Like I'll divert back to the guy that turns into a lazy slob. You know
Mm-hmm.
you know it's genetic. And I don't mean like genes, like in my genes. I think it's not. I don't know the word it is, but it's just what I used to be, and I can revert back to it fast. And I refuse to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of my convoluted answer to your question. I don't. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect plan. But when you're raising kids, somebody told me one time that you cannot plan the way a kid is raised.
Yeah. I don't think that there's such as a perfect plan.
But
I don't think no matter what, you can't put together a perfect plan.
right, but you can execute perfect practice at making it perfect.
Yeah. Sure.
So I'm going to practice every day at trying to accomplish conquering the morning.
And I think that there's a big like parallelism between this and what we talked about a couple times is how important it is to be selfish. And I don't know if that is the right adjective to use because obviously when you have a newborn daughter, you don't want to be selfish per se. And I don't even want to use that term anymore because I think that it's used as a misnomer because you're not being selfish. I think that you're being, actually, truth be told, I feel like you're being giving in the sense that you know what your mental release is and how you are, like the example that I'll use is during the pandemic when we were in quarantine and everything was locked down and you couldn't go anywhere and couldn't lift. Mentally, I was not in a good place for a lot of it. And it was because I wasn't working out. I mean, I was exercising, I was doing runs, pull ups, and going to the track and doing like a lot of athletic type stuff and running stairs and still being active, but it wasn't the same for me.
Right.
And you realize how important that stuff is for you to be a good person to everybody else too.
I agree.
Now, it sounds very selfish and it sounds very meatheadish of me to say that I need lifting to treat other people better, but I think that we all have something, even if it's not fitness specific.
Yeah, most people, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, not at all.
Most people, and I know this because I can say this from experience, most people, that is food or that is the television or that is video games or that is, obsessions or addictions or habits.
Reading, alone time, whatever. Everybody has something that they turn to.
Yep, exactly. And you need something that you turn to. I am trying in my life now to encourage people to find something that you turn to, that you enjoy, that you love, that is good for you mentally, physically, or emotionally.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that if people truly want you to be happy, they're going to respect that.
Absolutely.
They're going to respect, like, hey, like your wife does. Hey, this is Justin's time. He needs a little bit of time. That's not selfishness. In fact, that's helping our family. It's helping the family dynamic because it allows him to be the best that he can be. It allows him to have some type of mental release and some sense of purpose. And, your wife has whatever she does.
Right. Well, and I found that it's so far in fatherhood of 7 days, in my wise 7 days of fatherhood, that there is times where you have to take a second. It's time for me to do my workout. Okay, so is she good? Especially right now, she's healing from a C-section, so I ask her, how are you doing? How do you feel? Are you going to be okay? Is there something I can do before I leave to make things okay? So you just have to adapt. I think that's the big thing is find what it is for you and then be able to adapt to the surroundings, to whatever the environment is that you're in. So for me, with strength training and cardio, if it has to change, or like the podcast, we scheduled today to record at 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I had my first critical failure in a diaper change, and we didn't start recording till a little after 6. I checked with you. I could have made it work. She would have taken over,
Mm.
but I didn't feel like it wasn't the hill to die on, right? So I said, "Hey Charlie, is it okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, man, it's fine. Relax. I got client emails to do. I'm good." So like, you know what I mean? So it's adapt and overcome.
Yep.
Evaluate the situation you're in and decide if it's the hill to die on, and then if it's not, look at the options to overcome that problem.
I think that you can get too wrapped up in what you're doing where it does become selfish though.
Yes.
So like with bodybuilding and lifting and running and all the things that we do fitness wise that acts as our release, that can in turn be it can become selfish if it overrides what our responsibilities are first and foremost. I mean, it's just like anybody who, like you said, turns to food.
Yeah.
Or turns to video games, or turns to, heaven forbid, drugs and alcohol, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Everybody has their own little release that they enjoy. That's like, a guilty pleasure. I think that you and I are just in such a good situation where our pleasure comes from self-improvement too.
Right.
Which some people, then unfortunately, what they turn to for pleasure comes in like self-degradation.
Right.
And it actually breaks them down more than builds them up.
Well, and that's a topic for another episode, honestly. But I'm experiencing some of that as well, where, and I've talked about it before, where I am not able to see my successes so far. Mm-hmm. Like I'm still to that point where like I avoid mirrors, and I don't know why, because you tell me, my wife tells me, people on the podcast that listen to our podcast message me and tell me how great of a job I'm doing. People I don't even know, or people I haven't talked to in years, say, "Hey, man, I'm proud of you." Like, and like I don't, and in my brain, I acknowledge what they're saying, and I'm not just bypassing it. But like I said, this is probably a topic for another episode because we don't have hours left to talk about it. But being able to recognize your successes and balance that is important, and I struggle with that.
I think that you use the term balance, then I think that's just it. You hit the nail on the head with that, because sometimes I think a little bit of that is healthy though.
Right.
To say, okay, well, I don't see my successes, so I have to continue to push a little bit more, because I know some people, and I think we've mentioned this before, that kind of go the opposite direction with it, where they feel, very elated and satisfied with their progress, and then
they stall out.
That eventually becomes their demise, because I lost 100 pounds, and then what happens too is you have people that become there's complacency that creeps in, and then they fall back into the tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, tomorrow, or I still got plenty of time to accomplish this goal. It's like, okay, well, you made a ton of progress initially, and now you've stalled for a while, so you keep talking about tomorrow, but when is tomorrow going to come for you?
Right.
Like that happens all the time with people.
I mean, me in general, like 200 pounds in a year. We all talk about it. Everybody talks about me losing 200 pounds in a year.
227.
Okay.
If we want to be specific.
Right. Okay. So 227 pounds in 1 year, which was incredible, and like I can acknowledge that was incredible, because
should. Yes.
I did it without surgery. I did it against all the odds that doctors and everybody around said it wasn't possible.
No surgery, no drugs, just
right. Well, a little bit of the appetite suppressant in the very, very beginning for 3 weeks, but nothing drastic.
Yeah.
It was drastic amount of work, but after that first year, I went 4 months with no progress, 5 months with no progress, because I got comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. That is an important topic to talk about all together on its own. Like there's another sub topic we should talk about again later, is never get comfortable in your situation.
I think that sometimes people, what they do is, I'm going to use your example.
Absolutely. Shoot.
You were able to turn it on and completely change your life in a year.
Yeah.
And when people do that, now, not that it's common for people to do it to the degree that you did, but when people change their life, or even if it's minor, when they lose 50 pounds, once they finally decide to truly do it, sometimes that can kind of play against them, because they know that the switch is there to turn on when they truly want to turn it on.
Right.
But sometimes they make excuses to not turn the switch on and live in the dark. Like, oh, well, I know that I can lose another 100 pounds when I need to, but
do I really need to?
I just want to eat this food, or I just want to do this, or I just want to skip the gym, right? So I think that because sometimes people do have like those, I don't want to say extreme bouts, but these large bouts of success, then in turn they think they can continue to go to the well whenever they want.
Right.
And then lo and behold, some people waste 10 years not making progress and say, oh shoot, I should have continued to go to the well in the fashion that I was prior.
Right. I agree. I can't agree more. Like, you have to. I think that's why I like the term getting uncomfortable and being uncomfortable with what you're going on, because, like, I try not to be comfortable anymore.
Yeah.
Ever. And as soon as, like, and that's why I do the 6 to 8 week workouts and then I change them.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as it gets comfortable, as soon as Matt walks into the gym in the morning and say, hey, we doing the same thing we did last week? Absolutely not. We're changing it 100%. It's got to go, because now we both know what we're doing and we can go through the motions. And I'm not okay with going through the motions.
Yep.
I did that for 28 years and it got me absolutely nowhere but giant, and not giant like on a bodybuilding scale. So I'm not comfortable being comfortable.
Yep.
So like I said, that's a topic I think we need to dive into deeper. But yeah,
I think that sounds good, man. That's a nice little place to wrap it up, because now we got some talking points going forward that we want to hit on. Any last closing thoughts on fatherhood?
Live in the moment. Live in your moment. If you're a father or a new husband, or you've ignited a new relationship with a family member you haven't seen or talked to in a while, or a friend from your past, live in the moment. Don't try not to relish on what you missed, the time that you missed spent, and B, don't focus on the future so much that you do miss that time.
Yep.
I've done both, and I'm not speaking from an expert standpoint, but I've done both. So it's important just to live in the moment. Keep your eyes forward, keep your eyes on the prize, but enjoy that moment.
I like it. All right, so with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 65. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your listenership, and we will hopefully have you guys tuning in next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge and take it all. I'm born to be untamable.